Today I want to talk to you about what to do when the merchant says yes, but won't sign the paperwork. I just got a great question via email from an individual that manages a very large sales team. And he told me that one of the questions he gets asked all the time from his salespeople is, what do we do when a merchant seems like they're interested? They say yes, or they say that they're very interested. They even maybe get an application, but they won't complete the application. They won't move forward in the process. So I want to tell you several things about this that I really believe will help you to get more deals closed. Number one, realize that when someone says yes, but you leave without a signed agreement, understand that your odds of closing that deal go down significantly. Okay? So the first thing I would tell you is don't get yourself in that situation if you can help it. Now, what does this mean if you can help it? Well, the idea is, are you closing 3 times? Now, I've got other videos where I discuss closing 3 times, but it's easy to say, oh yeah, close 3 times, but are you actually doing that? So the idea is, when you're talking to somebody, understand that a lot of salespeople are like, oh, they're interested. Yes, I can just sell them whenever I want. No. Do you have a certain percentage of selling them now if you push them to a decision point? You have a much lower percentage of selling them tomorrow, and you have a much lower percentage of selling them the day after that, and so on. And so this is your best opportunity right now. You're with the merchant. So understand, if you get that merchant to a yes or a no, if you get them to a decision, the odds of it being yes today are better than tomorrow. So why is that important? Because we want to make sure we're closing at least 3 times. What does this mean? Number one, it means you ask for the sale initially, okay? So this is where we might use something like a permission close. And again, I've got other videos that go much more in depth here, but you might say something like, with your permission, I'd like to go ahead and get the paperwork started so that we can move forward and provide these great benefits for you. How do you spell your last name? Take out the paperwork or pull out your tablet and start putting the notes in. Then at that point, of course, they're going to push back. Well, hold on a second. We need to think about it. We have a business, I have a business partner I need to talk to, or whatever the case might be. I'm leaving on vacation. And so at that point, that's when most salespeople walk out and they never get the sale. But you're not going to do that because you close at least 3 times, right? So what are you going to do next? You're going to make it personal with confidence. So you're now going to say something like, I totally understand where you're coming from, and I would never want you to make a decision that you're not totally comfortable with. But let me tell you something. I am going to work harder for you than anybody that you've ever seen on this account. I promise you that I'm going to do everything in my power to make this a smooth and great experience for you. And I'm totally confident in the results that you're going to receive from this. And so with all of that in mind, would you at least be willing to give me a shot to try to earn your trust as we go through the process of getting this started? Does that sound good to you? Are you willing to give me a shot? Something like that. And again, I'm doing this off the cuff, but you get the idea. Then they're going to say, oh, it's not you. We actually really like you. We feel like this is a great idea. We're very interested. In fact, why don't you go and leave us an application so we can take a look at it and fill it out once we, talk to whoever. And so now it's like, oh, now you're definitely going to leave. Wrong. You haven't closed 3 times, okay? The third time is eliminate the risk and try to close 1 more time. So you say, you always agree with them. I always agree first. That's important. Of course, I'll be glad to do that. I'll leave an application with you here. And so I totally get that. Let me, one other thing I just thought of. Now, would it be possible? I know you've got this partner and everything. And so what if I gave you a free 30-day trial? Let me just throw this out there and you tell me if it's going to work. If it's not, it's fine. But if I did like a free 30-day no-risk trial where you could try it out, and here's the reason I'm saying that, what would make a lot of sense, I think, is if I was able to come back in 30 days and talk to you and your business partner together, and we actually had a statement to look at from a month of processing, then we could look at it and we could see where it's at, right? And then if it looks good, we move forward and you make that long-term commitment. If not, it was just a risk-free trial. So, we're done and no harm, no foul. Now, if I was able to put something like that together to remove that risk, is that something that would sound maybe a little bit more palatable for you? So you get the idea. So we're closing 3 times. So that's number one. I want to get that out of the way right off the bat, because it's like me telling you how to deal with this situation you've gotten yourself into where you're gone and the merchant has an application and they're not filling it out. That's the wrong situation for you to be in the first place, okay? Does it happen? Of course, but definitely minimize that, all right? Okay, what's next? So first thing is, don't get in that situation if you can help it, all right? Number 2, if you realize you're going to end up in that situation, what you need to do is you need to make sure that you pre-sell the follow-up. Pre-sell the follow-up. if you're going to give them what they want, if you're going to give in and say, sure, yeah, think it over as long as you want, sure, I'll come back next week. Okay, if you're going to do that, you better get something in return. You better get a commitment. Okay, so what do? You say, okay, great, sure, I'll come back on Friday and talk with you and your business partner. That's totally fine. Let me just ask you a couple quick questions so I have some notes for when I come back, okay? Number one on my list, and this is going to depend on what the objection is, right? But I would say number one on my list, I want to make sure that you are 100% on board. I want to make sure both of us are in this together, that we're going to be basically talking to your business partner about something that you want to do. So before we get involved, it's like instead of me trying to talk to two people at one time and answer questions, let's start with you first. Are you 100% on board with moving forward as long as your business partner is okay with it? Now, all of a sudden, you're going to get some objections. Now they're going to say, well, and then they're going to tell you something. Deal with the objection. Sell them. Do not let them off the hook. There is no reason for you to follow up so you can answer their objections. Their objections can be answered right now, so do that, right? Or another situation you might run into as far as a pre-sell is you get to the end and they're like, yeah, we're ready to go. I can't fill it out right now. I don't have time, right? Then you say, hey, no problem at all. Here's what I'd like to do with your permission. How about I swing back by in an hour? Or how about I swing back by tomorrow? Or how about we do a Zoom session at 2 o'clock tomorrow so that I can answer, because you're going to have questions as you go through the paperwork, so I can answer any questions that you have. Because if I hear what you're saying correctly, is you're saying, I do want to move forward. You're committed 100% to moving forward, but we just need to make sure we have time to go through the paperwork so I can get your questions answered. Is that what I hear you saying? You've got to pre-sell the follow-up. You've got to confirm it. That's all there is to it. You've got to confirm it, okay? Now, that's like next, right? So hopefully you do that. Now, if you get past that and you're now in the situation where you did everything you could, but guess what? You're still not with the merchant. They still don't fill out the application. They seemed interested, but they're not moving forward. What do you do now? Well, now we're dealing with the actual question. It's just that's the wrong question, right? The right question is, how do we not get ourselves into this situation? But it's going to happen sometimes, of course. And when it does, here's what you do. You have to manufacture urgency. Manufacture urgency. The number one mistake salespeople make in this situation is they operate from a position of fear instead of from a position of power and leverage. And they're like, oh, well, I don't want to tick them off because they might say no. Let me tell you something. Let me spoiler alert. Okay. If somebody says they're really interested, but they won't fill out the paperwork, let me just let you in on a secret. Okay. Are you ready? You're going to be shocked by this. They're actually not really interested. But they say they're really interested. I know, but they're not. And do you know how I know they're not really interested? Because they didn't fill out the paperwork. Hello, they're not really interested, okay? So what do you need to do in this situation? You have to create a sense of urgency to get them to make a decision. How do we do this? Well, what I like to do, especially with a sales team, have a time once a month where you clean out the pipeline. So you've got all these follow-ups, all these people. So have a time once a month where you kind of say, hey, everybody, here's what we're going to do. We're having a special offer. We're going to give people a free terminal, or we're going to give them a $500 signing bonus, or I don't know, manufacture something, whatever it is, right? Part of the offer maybe was a free placement terminal. You reach out and say, hey, I just want to reach out to you. I know that you're interested in moving forward and you have that commitment. Part of the deal we talked about was that free terminal. And that was actually a special promotional program, which does end on the 1st, which is in about 5 days or, whatever it is. And so I just wanted to double check with you to make sure you're still planning to move forward before that date, so I don't have to update that paperwork for you. Manufacture urgency, okay? And then finally is get a yes or a no, all right? Is it going to be a yes most of the time? No, it's not. There is a reason. Again, I'm saying this again. There is a reason that you're in the situation you're in. Okay, either you didn't close hard enough initially, or the person's just blowing you off and they're not really that interested, or they really are just the busiest person on earth, and even though they think this is the best idea ever, they won't take 5 minutes to complete the paperwork. That's very unlikely, but possible. But in any of those scenarios, it doesn't matter. Your odds are not great right now, but every day that passes, your odds get worse and worse and worse. In sales, you've got to close the sale. So get a decision, right? Reach out to them and say, hey, I actually, what I want to do is I wanted to talk to you today. Again, creating urgency. We have something that ends on Friday. And so I just wanted to reach out to you. I know you're super busy. I know I'm busy. I just want to get your thoughts and be honest with me. Like, where are you at with this deal? Do you want to move forward or not? We really don't want to move forward. Okay, why not? Let's have a quick conversation, and that way we can both move on. I don't want to waste any more of your time. So why not? Just ask them. You know, get this response, respond to the rebuttal, try to close the sale. If it's a no, it's a no. Move on and get somebody else. So, recognize it for what it is, close the sale. So there you go. There's some tips. Hopefully that will help you when you have a merchant that says yes, but they won't complete the paperwork.